Next page type we're going to learn how to add is the quiz page. By selecting Add a Page, we can come to the quiz category on the left-hand side and then add the quiz page. With the quiz page selected, go ahead and select where it says Add Selected Page. Now we can give it a name and then click on Go to Next Step. Now it comes to our pool of questions. We can have as many questions as we want for each quiz, and we can even have multiple different types of quizzes within the course. To add a question to this pool, let's go ahead and click on the Add a Question and then select either True or False or Multiple Choice. Right now, True or False and Multiple Choice are the only two options that are mobile compatible. So we're going to go ahead and select True or False and select Done here, and then it comes to our question ID. Now the question ID must be unique for every single question. This information does get passed over to a learning management system, and so it's important to have a unique ID for every single question that you have, but something that will help you recognize what that question is as well. So therefore, after I have the question ID, I'm going to go ahead and type in the question here. Select which response I think is correct, or which response is correct, and then I can provide feedback for each individual questions. Now it allows me to select the number of tries that the user will have. I can also select the initial prompt. I can also select the evaluation prompt, correct feedback, incorrect feedback, and try again feedback, as well as the track question if I want this to be tracked in the LMS, and I can establish an objective ID for this question, or I can also establish the weight. By default, it's worth 1 point, or I can change it to however many points I want it to be just by typing in a number. I'm going to go ahead and select Done Editing Question. Now that adds one question to my pool of questions, so therefore I can go ahead and add a different question. Let's go ahead and add a multiple choice question. Name this one question 2. Hit Next Step, and then choose the distractors. Now I can randomize, or I can just type in the distractors how they are, and then provide specific feedback for each of those distractors. Now all I have to do is select which one of those is correct, go to Question Feedback, and if I don't override the feedback, it'll actually use the default feedback, and I'll show you how to fill that out here in a second. I can also establish the tracking questions, the weights and the objective ID, and whether or not I want to track this specific question or not, and then go ahead and select Done Editing Questions. Now I can reorganize my questions if I'm not going to randomize it, or I can randomize it if I want to as well. If I have a pool of questions, I can select where it says Use Subset of Questions and decide only to use a certain number of those questions as well. If I hit Next Step, now it allows me to adjust if I'm going to have use a review or a test. If this is going to be a review or if it's going to be a test. If it's going to be a test, I can randomize the questions. I can also choose if I want the results to show or not, if I want to report the score to the LMS or not, if I want to include a review that the learner can go through step by or question by question and see exactly what they got right and what they got wrong. Include a retake button as well as a quiz introduction. If I want to have an introduction, I can go ahead and do that, hit Next Step, and then also adjust the LMS settings. Whether I want the course to be reported as complete, depending on the score of the quiz, or if I wanted to just have a page complete, depending on the score of the quiz as well, I can adjust those. Then I can adjust what the passing score is, what the minimum score, maximum score as well. If I go to Next Step, it now takes me to my global feedback. If I don't want to have to type in specific feedback for each individual question, I can type in global feedback here, and it will use the global feedback inside of the quiz instead of the individual feedback unless I override it. Now, print and email at this time only applies to Flash. You can have them print out the results or send an email to a specific email. as well as the narration. You can have some narration for the quiz. Well, that's pretty much all that I have to do to fill out the quiz. In the next tutorial, we're going to talk about how to preview each of these pages that we've just built inside of mLearning Studio, so we can see how the learner is actually going to see the content.